Hi, everyone. Thanks for stopping by the Time to Discuss studio for another engaging conversation with yet another exciting professional. This channel is really young, so I'd appreciate you hitting all of those usual buttons. You got your like, your subscribe, your bell, all that good stuff. Doing this helps the channel grow and helps me get even more obscure professionals. Still trying to get that voiceover talent. All that being said, stick around because I have Laura and Alice here, and it's time we discuss senior management. All right. Thank you for joining us today on Time We Discuss. Today with me, Lauren Alice. Lauren Alice, thank you so much for being here today.
You are so welcome. I am happy to join you.
I love it. I love the energy. That sounds so canned. I love the energy.
For a Friday, it's not bad, right?
Not bad at all. Lauren Alice, a lot of times when I have a guest come on the show, I like to have a little bit of fun and talk about my perception of their job. Several weeks ago, I spoke with a hypnosis, and that was really fun. The banter in the very beginning, I just really appreciated.
Interesting.
And
Okay.
then, I'm sorry.
I thought it's interesting.
Yes, yes. And then a couple weeks after that, I had the opportunity to speak with a speech pathologist. And again, I really got to show my limitations on what that field is really all about and learned about the broad scope of that particular job. So I generally like to have a little bit of fun about and talk a little bit about my perception of the person's job. Now, you're a senior manager, and a senior manager title, it's a very nondescript title. It's very broad, it's very large, has a very large wingspan. It can cover a lot of different things. So I'm just going to kind of jump in with both feet here. At your organization, in your division or your team, as
Mhm.
senior manager, what do you do? What's a typically day like? Where do your responsibilities begin, and what's it like being a senior manager where you are?
It's interesting because where I work, your title really depends on what business you're in, sometimes what country you're in. We are a global organization of about 450,000 people. So senior manager can mean one thing here in the US, it can mean something else over in Asia Pacific. For me, I think senior manager for me was a title I sort of fell into by accident. A little bit of a diversion here in my answer, but it kind of ties into my overall career journey. I am not a corporate ladder climber. Great thing about where I work is you don't have to be. You can move laterally, you can kind of Spider-Man your way around the organization. Essentially, I enjoy the opportunity to do what I'm good at, have a consistent experience at my work, meet interesting people, do interesting things, and I kind of let that happen organically. A handful of years ago, I had a boss who I really liked. I loved working with her. I loved reporting to her. She was able to get a role for me in the team that she was joining, and at the time I was a manager, so I just assumed lateral move. Again, that's fine. I wanted to work with her and continue the work that we were doing. And then she said, "Well, what if I could get this as a senior manager role? What would you think?" And my knee-jerk response, and it is honestly what I feel, I said, "If you think I can do it, then I can do it." And she said, "Okay." So that is kind of an example of how I tend to just take opportunities as they arise. That's how I found myself in the senior manager role. Now, what that means in my day to day, I manage three people. I have three direct reports. They are all writers in what we call a center of excellence.
So in your particular team, those communications, are they for global dissemination, or is it just communication on within the United States, or what's that like?
Essentially, global is its own entity. Global is, in my mind, of course, the globe, but there are about 10,000 people who are designated in the global organization. So where I am, I'm setting strategy, developing communications plans, executing communications plans, and managing a team of writers. So we support different clients within quote unquote the global organization.
Okay, okay. Now I want to throw this question at you. So you talked about your manager and clinging to her heels, so to speak.
Yes.
And I love that line you said, "If you think I can do it, then I can do it." I love that. That's beautiful. So and I don't remember exactly what you said, but maybe think of this. My father was he had his own business. It was a trophy business. He did engraving, hats, sweatshirts, all kinds of different things. And one of the things that he said to me was that when he first started, people would come to him and say, "Well," and it started as a trophy business, and they would say, do you do maybe plaques, we'll say. And he'd go, no, I don't do plaques, I do trophies. Oh, okay. And then another person would come to him, like, do you do plaques? No, I do trophies. Oh, okay. And they would walk away. And he began to think to himself, maybe I should do plaques. So we started doing plaques as well. And then, the same thing happened with shirts and hats and buttons, all kinds of different things. And one thing he told me was that when you're starting your own business, you never want to say no to a person. You always say, yes, I can do it. Now, obviously, businesses, there are reasons why people offer the products they do when they don't offer other products. Obviously, that makes sense. But that being said, in your role as taking on more responsibilities, did you find it to be effective that when they threw stuff at you, that you, without a doubt, said, absolutely, I can do that? Or how did that all factor into your shift in career path, I guess?
It's an interesting balance to strike, especially when by nature I am a people pleaser. I will say yes. And having a reputation for saying yes to things in the workplace means that you get a lot of work, which, depending on what you're looking to do, is great. If you're earlier on in your career, absolutely say yes, put your hand up and commit and follow through. Maybe doing something you haven't done before, writing in a style that you haven't done, taking on a kind of a side project in addition to your regular role. There's a lot of different ways to do that. And so it's the balance between being the person that people can go to and know that you're willing to take on a challenge, and then also perhaps being the person where they say, oh, Lauren Alice, she'll never say no. So let's ask her. um, so it's also, you don't want to do too many things and not be able to do them all well, which is something I struggle with, where there are things I take on because I want to do them. For instance, I am very involved outside of my day job. So locally, I co-lead the Social Impact Council, which is the umbrella under which all of our community efforts, whether it's mentoring, um, community health resources, community finance resources. I also co-lead our signature mentoring program, where we partner for 3-year cohorts with a Philadelphia school district high school. And we match them with one-to-one mentors. We deliver personal and professional development content to them. We just started a new cohort this past year, which I'm very excited about. But I also have to be mindful that I have a day job that I have to do. So it's a balance, but it's also it's a couple of things. It's building your reputation, building your personal brand, but it's also finding things that really kind of light that fire in you. I love to write, I love to edit. That's what I do for a job. I enjoy it, but it's not lighting my soul on fire per se every single day. So you want to do some other things that really play to what you're most passionate about, but not at the expense of what you're paid to do. So I try to balance it all, and sometimes I just feel like I'm not balancing anything, but I certainly try.
All right. You said a bunch of things that made me think of a bunch of different questions. The first one I want to think of, the first one I wanted to mention to you. So that's really cool that they partner with the school district and provide that mentoring. I'm kind of curious. I thought about this concept several years ago. Is that any kind of like pathway into your organization, or is it just more of I hate to say it, it's more of like a generic kind of mentoring opportunity?
It's a little bit of both. Philadelphia school districts typically have, overall, the Philadelphia school district has a very low graduation rate. So when we partner with a school, which we do, our social impact leader for our office works with the Philadelphia school district, identifies a school. This is actually the second quote unquote cohort that we're partnered with through this one particular school. And what we do is identify not just high performing students, but students that have a lot of potential that could benefit from being exposed to a professional environment. So ideally, these students would all graduate, go to school, come and intern, eventually work for us. We do have examples of that from this program, which has been in existence in Philadelphia since 2008. It's giving kids exposure and opportunities that they might not have otherwise. So it's a little bit of both.
Okay. Okay. That's awesome. I had no idea they did that. And the scope of the size of your organization is just I'm still digesting that. I've always worked for smaller organizations. My day job, it's, limited to, I'm going to guess, a few thousand employees. And anywhere else I've worked has been very similar. So I think you said 400,000 global. That's just blowing my mind.
There are people that I met my very first week in my role, not even in the Philadelphia office. I wasn't originally based there. I was based in the suburbs, but people that I met during my first week, people that I worked with during those first couple of years on the job are either still here or still in, my orbit today. It's a place that has a lot of close connections despite the size. When I think about the size of it, it is a little intimidating.
Okay. Um, so thinking internationally, and I don't know if you necessarily would know the answer to this. How easy is it if you wanted to relocate? So you wanted to go to Paris, that you decided, France has been calling you all these years, and you finally want to check out all their great food. Um, how how easy is that within your organization to do that? Is that possible, or are you not sure?
It is. I will say, mobility in our organization is encouraged. That's one of the reasons I have been in the organization as long as I have, is because you can have many different lives. I spent a couple of years working in global public relations. I've done internal communication. I've done technology communication. I've supported a bunch of different clients at different levels, on a really wide spectrum of projects. So I could say to my boss tomorrow, well, tomorrow being Saturday, but I could say to my boss on Monday morning, hey, I want to explore an opportunity in this area of the company. Or I could say, I'm looking, my husband's relocating to Germany and I'm going to be looking for a job there. You can't directly transfer to outside your jurisdiction. So I can't transfer to outside the United States unless there's a job for me. So there's some, a couple of I would say very thin pieces of red tape there, but it's definitely possible. I know colleagues who have done it, who have relocated, and they still work with the organization in a different place. Within the U.S., very easy. Uh, I would just have to change my address, and that's about all. So
That's awesome. That's great that they have that opportunity. There obviously some hurdles that you might have to overcome, but that the possibility is there. And it's such a large organization, that's, for lack of better words, encouraged. My words. So going backwards, how did you actually get started? I'm assuming you probably went to school for writing or for communications. Tell us about your education. How did that play into where you are now?
I did go to school for communications. I went to Westchester University and I graduated with a degree in communication studies and a minor in journalism. So originally, when I started off on my career journey, I wanted to be a reporter. Specifically, my goal was to work at a nationally published magazine as a features reporter. That was the dream. The dream happened, to coincide with perhaps a very one of the largest shifts in how media is consumed. And graduating again in 2003, we were told there's a recession. We're at war. The economy is terrible. You're not going to get a job. So I was also setting out with tempered expectations. I did work at a daily newspaper for the first couple of years out of college, which aligned perfectly with what I wanted to do. I actually started my master's in journalism during that time, and it just gradually became not sustainable at that point in time. It was a very cutthroat industry, as I alluded to before. Media was changing. Print media was, kind of not as it was in its salad days, so to speak. And it wasn't it wasn't something I wanted to let go of completely, but I realized at that time in my life, I wanted to kind of just get some more momentum in what I did for a living. And if that meant going back to what I originally thought I would do, which was corporate communications, that was something when I first started in college, that was my career goal. So it again, like so many things in my life, came about very organically. A couple of years into my job at the newspaper, I happened to meet up with a friend who I knew from my college internship, and she happened to mention they're looking for someone else to support internal communications. Would you want me to pass along your resume? And at that point, I was applying for jobs, I was interviewing, I was looking, in a lot of different directions business wise, and I will confess that my interview, I had absolutely no idea what they were talking about, what I was going to be communicating about. It was very much like a consulting kind of client service jargon they were throwing out at me. I had no idea what that interview was about, but I said, okay, if it's writing, if it's editing, I can do this. And more than that, during just my interview, I really got a great impression of the local office, the people. It was a good vibe without without sounding too new agey. I just had a feeling, and I've always been the person that if a door opens, I'm going to walk through it, and especially when it comes to work. And I thought, okay, let me do this. Hey, maybe maybe I'll stick around for a year or so. And I was a contractor for 2 years. I was hired full time, and I've never left. I get to write in a journalistic style. I get to write for executives. I get to learn someone's voice. I've written speeches, press releases, email communications, web content, you name it. I'm probably the rare person of our age that has been at a company for over 18 years. It doesn't make sense to me.
Every once in a while, I think about that, the duration I've been with within my industry or something like that, and just knowing that we're definitely the rare ones where most people it's only a few years and they move on to somewhere else. Um, so if someone wants to pivot in their career, and they've never done writing before, and they want to do something similar to what you're doing, what would be your what would be a path that you think they could pursue in order to uh, pivot into a career like yours?
That's an interesting question. I think I do believe, even to this day, a communications degree is important, if not for anything other than just getting exposure to different types of communications. When I first started in undergrad and declared a major, I wasn't sure what communications even entailed. I knew basically, the types of careers you could have, but it was almost too broad. I had a roommate who was a nurse, in the nursing program. So she graduated, she was a nurse. I had other friends who went to school and they graduated as a teacher. I didn't graduate as a career. I graduated into a field that was very broad. Um, but I do think having basic communications training, even if you just get a certification, there's organizational communication certifications that you can get at local universities. I think those go a long way, but more than anything, as a communications person, you need to be able to write. That's just table stakes. You have to be able to write clearly, concisely, well, be detail oriented. And I think if you have material that can prove that you do that, I don't necessarily believe you have to have a certain degree. It helps, but I know in today's business environment is changing. College, the nature and meaning of college and a college education is changing. So it's a lot about just getting a foothold somewhere and proving yourself. But yeah, if you need to be able to write and you need to be able to talk to people. Those two things are just basic table stakes.
When someone comes to the interview process, how often are they required to also include writing samples? Now you've been at your current role or the current place for 18 years. So I mean, you don't have exposure with outside organizations, but even when bringing people in, how often are you asking them to also bring in writing samples?
Every time.
Yep. Okay.
Every time. Yeah, just to get an idea of the type of writing they've done, what it looks like, what it sounds like, knowing that, of course, everyone's writing goes through an editing process, but just looking at the different types of communications they have experience with. We've had people come in from who worked at, a university public relations construct. So they came in knowing, a basic press release style or how to communicate, an email campaign. So those things are important. And I just look for, more than anything, I just look for consistency and quality, even in a resume. Look for typos. That says a lot. If you're a communications person and you have typos in your resume, you need to fix that. Um, but yeah,
You're no
writing
longer a
samples,
runner-up.
yeah, exactly, right. Writing samples are absolutely critical, and they should be of the highest quality. And then show your versatility if you can, depending on what you have in your portfolio.
Okay. All right. So two final questions for you. The first one is a surprise question. I like to throw something at the person I'm speaking with that has nothing to do with their job. Although ironically, it does kind of touch on something we spoke about earlier. So that's kind of fun and coincidental. So Lauren and Alice, given the opportunity to travel anywhere in the world, maybe we'll even throw like an extra incentive at you, like, a couple million or something like that. Given the opportunity to travel anywhere in the world, where would you never go?
I never say never. What is always prohibitive to me in terms of travel is the length of time it takes to fly there. I would love to go somewhere like Australia. However, the idea of a nearly 24-hour flight gives me anxiety. However, if I had a couple of million, I would rent a private jet. And if I had a private jet, I would go absolutely anywhere. I like to be comfortable. I like to be able to recline. I like to be able to move around. So yeah, I would take that private jet and you tell me wherever and I would just aim that plane there.
It's funny. I feel very similar when it comes to flying. I flew to California several years ago, a couple times within the past, 5 years or whatever it was. And right around like the 3.5, 4 hour mark, I start to get antsy. And it's like, I want to get
Mhm.
off the plane. I'm fine when I'm flying, but like mentally, it's like, I'm done. It's like, I am ready to get back on the ground and walk around and stretch and all that stuff.
Yes.
So yeah, the idea of a 6, 8, 10, 20-hour flight, nah, no, not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would need that private jet. It's not eco-friendly, but hey, it's hypothetical.
That's right. It's a good thought experiment here.
Yes.
Final thing. So whenever I'm speaking with someone, I also like to give them the opportunity to share a personal project they believe in or a charity they believe in or something like that. So I want to give you like 1, 2 minutes if there's something that you want to talk about, something that you're passionate about. The floor is yours.
I would love to talk about animal rescue. Speaking of things where I have some longevity, for almost 12 years, I have been volunteering with PAWS, which is Philadelphia Animal Welfare Society. Most large cities have, plenty of nonprofit animal rescue organizations, and I can't say enough how much it has brought to my life, both in terms of meeting amazing animals, seeing the work that PAWS does in the community. Essentially, their goal is to make Philadelphia a no-kill city where every healthy or treatable pet is guaranteed a home. In a city as large as Philadelphia, there are a lot of homeless animals that are coming into our animal control shelter every day. So PAWS acts as almost an adoption arm of animal control, and they pull at-risk cats, dogs, and some small animals like hamsters and guinea pigs. They pull them into their care, and they're with PAWS for however long it takes to find a home. PAWS has numerous locations. I've been volunteering at the shelter location in Old City, Philadelphia, for that entire time. Again, I've met great animals, incredible humans, and I really, really believe in the work that they do.
Lauren Alice, that is awesome. So I will echo that as well. I know many people that have adopted animals through various shelters, and there is no love like a pet's love. It is quite an experience. I've had various animals growing up: guinea pigs, rabbits, dogs, and there's just nothing like that. And the shelters, they are just such a wonderful thing for everyone. So I'm going to echo what Lauren Alice said. Lauren S., thank you so much for today. It
You're
was
so
great.
welcome.
It was so great speaking with you, and perhaps we can do this again sometime.
That would be great. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Dan.
You're welcome. Thanks for stopping by the studio. My name is Dan, and this is Time We Discuss. I really enjoyed speaking with Lauren Alice, and I hope you enjoyed the time too. I'm still blown away at the size of the organization, yet how small it seems. 450,000 people. Wow. Well, if you enjoyed the content or learned something interesting, do me a solid and comment, like, share, subscribe, all of those good things. Add a comment if you have a profession that you'd like me to cover, or hit me up on social media. If you'd like to join me in the studio, please follow the sign-up link in the description or visit timewediscuss.com and we'll get you on the schedule. Ask your friends or coworkers to do the same. When you sign up to be part of the show, use promo code communications. This way I know you came after watching or listening to this segment. That'll do it. See you next time on Time We Discuss.